Hello, everyone. Welcome again to Accountancy Research. This is now video number 2. We will be talking about the hallmarks of scientific research. Research came from the Latin word researche. And researche literally means to dig deeper, to understand better, to find out answers. Basically, when we research on something, we are trying to solve a problem. Okay? So, research has always been part of humanity from the time a person is born to the time a person dies. Because from birth to death, we have questions. So, kakambal na natin ang research. Okay? Hindi yan mahihiwalay sa pagkatao ng humanity. Okay? So, paano natin masasabi na ang isang research ay makabuluhan? Especially pag ito ay gagamitin sa isang profesyon like accountancy. There are basically 8 hallmarks or characteristics of good scientific research. Scientific research is based on facts. Always based on facts. Number 1, purposiveness. What do we mean by purposiveness? Purposiveness is that aspect wherein we do conduct research because we want to make sure that we are serving a particular purpose. Merong katuturan ng ating ginagawa. Hindi tayo nagre-research dahil gusto lang natin mag-research. We research because we have an ultimate goal. Okay? That is very important. Good research is always purposive. Okay? Take note of that. Second hallmark of research is rigor. So pag sinabi nating rigor, this connotes carefulness, scrupulousness, and the degree of exactitude in research investigations. In the case of our example, let us say a manager asked 10 to 12 of its employees to indicate what would increase their level of commitment. If solely on the basis of their responses, the manager reaches several conclusions on how employee commitment can be increased. The conclusions would be incorrectly drawn because they are based on responses of just a few employees, whose opinions may not be representative of the entire workforce. Secondly, the manner of framing and addressing the questions could have introduced bias, incorrectness in the responses. And there might be many other important respondents, not include influences, on organizational commitment that this small sample of respondents did not or could not verbalize during the interviews, and the researcher has failed to include them. Thus, conclusions drawn from an investigation that lacks a good theoretical foundation and methodological sophistication is unscientific. Okay? So that means academic rigor is important in research. Kailangan talaga may sistema siya on how to gather data, how to ask questions, how to analyze. So how do you choose who's going to respond to your survey? Hindi pwedeng kahit sino. No, you have to choose carefully. Okay? It has to be representative of the population. Another hallmark of scientific research is testability. Scientific research lends itself to testing logically, develop hypotheses to see whether or not the data support the educated conjectures or hypotheses that are developed after a careful study of the problem situation. Okay? If after talking to a random selection of employees of the organization, the study of the previous research done in the area of organizational commitment, the manager of the researcher develops certain hypotheses on how employee commitment can be enhanced, then this can be tested by applying certain statistical tests to the data collected for the purpose. Okay? So for example, the researcher might hypothesize that those employees who perceive greater opportunities for participation in decision-making would have a higher level of commitment. Di ba? Pag ini-involve mo yung mga empleyado sa decision-making, policy formulation, mas ganado sila magtrabaho, mas committed sila. Hindi nila iiwanan sa ere ang company. Another hallmark is replicability. To gain greater confidence in the study or report, hypotheses should not be supported merely by chance, but be reflective of the true state of affairs in the population. Let us suppose that the manager concludes that participation in decision-making is one of the most important factors that influences the commitment of employees to the organization. We will place more faith and credence in these findings and conclusion if similar findings emerge on the basis of data collected by other organizations employing the same methods. For example, nalaman natin na yung mga tao pala na, mga empleyado na ini-involve natin sa mga projects, sa decision-making, policy formulation, mas nagiging committed. Tapos dun sa kabilang company, ganun din pala ang ginawa nila. Yun din ang na-discover nila. So the more people who do the same experiment or the same study and get the same results, that means you are replicating what you've done. And that aspect of replicability is very important in scientific research. Okay? Another characteristic would be precision and confidence. What does this mean? It is vital to design research in a manner that ensures that the findings are as close as possible to reality, meaning makatotohanan siya. Hindi siya gawa-gawa lang o inimbento o binaluktot o inimbento o manufactured, no? It has to be close to reality. The true state of affairs of the organization, for example, so that one can place reliance or confidence in the results. Mas kapanipaniwala ang resulta ng iyong research o ng iyong report. Paniniwalaan ka. May credibility. Okay? Another characteristic of or hallmark of scientific research is objectivity. The conclusions drawn through the interpretation of the results of data analysis should be objective and should be based on the facts of the findings derived from actual data, and not on the researcher's subjective or emotional opinions and values. In research, there is no place for opinions. Everything should be based on facts and evidence. Always remember that. Okay? Kung meron ka mang gagawing conclusion or recommendation, hindi pwedeng opinion yon. Dapat yan may pinanggalingan na findings. And the findings are the facts. Ano talaga yung nangyari sa inyong survey, sa inyong interview, o sa inyong observation. Okay? Hindi ka pwedeng mag-imbento. Hindi mo pwedeng dagdagan, hindi mo pwedeng bawasan, or i-modify. Objectivity. The opposite of objectivity is subjectivity. And number 7 is generalizability. This means that the scope of applicability of the research findings in one organizational setting to other settings. That means we can draw conclusions and recommendations. Okay? The more applicable it is to a wider group of companies or units, the better it is. Okay? That means it becomes a universal finding. Lastly, the 8th hallmark of scientific research is parsimony. Simplicity explaining the phenomena of or problems that occur and in generating solutions for the problems is always preferred to complex research frameworks that consider the unmanageable number of factors. Kapag nakakita tayo ng research na masyadong complicated, very complex, it doesn't have parsimony. Remember, something complex, something difficult to understand, but you were able to simplify it, that is parsimony. Kailangan, wag natin gawing mahirap intindihin ang ating mga conclusions and recommendations, ang ating pag-aaral. The more simplified it is, then the more people will understand it. That is parsimony. Okay? Remember the 8 characteristics or hallmarks of scientific research. We will repeat them. Purposiveness, rigor, testability, replicability, precision and confidence, objectivity, generalizability, and parsimony. Now, for the pop question for video number 2, let's go back to the case that we mentioned in video number 1. Remember the case? Truth about Yolanda Aftermath. There is a second question to that case. Here's the question now. If found, remember the first question was, what procedure did COA perform to arrive at such findings and conclusion? The second question that you need to answer in the comment section below, if found to be true, what potential charges may be filed against the erring government officials? Yung mga pumalpak, yung mga nagnakaw, yung mga walang hiya ng pondo ng bayan, ano ang pwedeng ikaso sa kanila? Okay? Answer the question in 1 to 3 sentences only. Keep it short, direct to the point, and you earn a good grade. Okay? I hope you enjoyed this segment. This is now the end of video number 2. I'll see you in video number 3.